Hi everyone, it's Monika here, Clinical Hypnotherapist and Psychotherapist. And in this video, I'm going to show you 3 things that you can do, 3 processes to actually get rid of the anxiety in your head. So what I mean by anxiety in your head is all that rumination. It's the thoughts that just keep going and going and going. And it's like you're almost catastrophizing what's going to happen in the future. And so this can occur when there is a certain trigger in the environment, or it can just come from building those thoughts one on top of the other. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how to actually interrupt that cycle, and also how to actually replace your thoughts with more empowering ones. So what I mean by anxiety in the head is that for some people, anxiety occurs in the body. So that's, feelings of maybe jitteriness, the heart pounds and races, might get sweaty palms, feeling a tightness in the chest or even in the stomach as well. And for other people, they feel more anxiety in the head. So what I mean by in the head is in terms of their thought process. So they get stuck in this looping kind of thought process that is a very negative and I guess it's deconstructive, to what they're wanting to achieve. So, it could be that you start off with one thought, one negative thought about yourself, like, I don't think I'm going to do well today. And then it just builds and escalates from there until you've blown up this really big situation in your own mind. And really, you've got no evidence that will actually happen. And so the effect of that can be things like lowering your self-esteem. It can prevent you from taking on board other projects and things that you actually want to achieve. Because, if you don't believe that you can do it, or if you're catastrophizing your abilities, then you're less likely to actually go ahead and engage in those enjoyable activities and advancements in life. So let's get into why it's actually important to get rid of anxiety in the head. So anxiety and all of those ruminating thoughts can, like I said before, impede on your ability to engage in your environment and joyful activities. But what it can also do is, through the process of thinking, bad thoughts or, catastrophizing thoughts, what can end up happening is that you can actually interpret that as a threat to your environment, a threat to you somehow. And when the threat occurs, what ends up happening is that it elicits that fight, flight, and freeze response in the body. So that head rumination and the negative thinking in the head and the catastrophizing can make a direct impact on the body and how you feel. So then you can directly be feeling all of those anxious feelings in your body, the extreme butterflies or the freezing up, the sweaty palms, the pounding chest, and really the feeling like you're not coping with the situation. And so what we know is that if you tackle the thoughts first, right, and you get a real grip on changing and turning that around, then there's quite a strong possibility that you're not going to go into that feeling of anxiety. And if you're not going into the feeling of anxiety, well, then you're not going to be getting the same outcomes either, right? You're not going to be behaving in the same way. So here's what we do. The first thing that we've got to do to get rid of that head anxiety is to firstly identify what specifically it is that you feel anxious about. So what is the thing specifically that you feel anxious about? Is it that there's an upcoming test, right? Are you going for your license? Are you meeting someone for the first time? Is it something in relation to your family or your friends or even your kids? So it's really good to get really, really specific about what it is. And it's getting specific to the point where it's one thing that you feel anxious about. When you and you do that because if you load everything in together, and you pull in everything that you feel anxious about, then it can be too overwhelming and too all consuming for you to deal with any of of those things. So it's really, really important. Step one is to become really, really specific about what it is that you're anxious about. Okay, so step two is to really now have a look at what you're specifically anxious about. And you do that by having a look and examining the validity of what you're anxious about, okay? So for instance, we can use the example of having a test, going for a test of some sort. And the specific thought that you might have is, oh God, I'm going to fail this test. I'm going to do so horribly that I'm going to fail, right? And so step two is really looking at, well, is there any evidence to suggest that I will fail? It's really calling it as it is. Is there any evidence that I will fail? I mean, sure, there's a possibility, yeah, but what evidence do I have? What evidence in terms of my background and my experience and my learning in the subject that will indicate to me that I will fail? So this concept comes from cognitive behavioural therapy, and it really challenges that thought process and that belief, okay? And now, for instance, there might be evidence in your environment or in your past that something like that might happen, and that could be completely valid, all right? And so then the next step really is looking at, so step number 3 is creating an alternative to that thing that you're, catastrophizing, that you're ruminating about. Creating an empowering alternative, an empowering scene or image or movie in your own mind about what you want to happen instead. So many studies have demonstrated time and time again that the act of visualizing your ultimate outcome puts you in a position where you're more likely to actually get it. So in controlled studies where there's been a group who has visualized their outcome and a group that hasn't visualized the outcome, the group that has visualized is more likely and has a greater level of success, percentage to actually achieve that goal. So that's step 3. It's creating an empowering scene instead that you're going to concentrate on, that you're going to run over in your mind, and it's one where you actually succeed at doing what it is, that task ahead of you. So for instance, if that original thought was about you failing a test, what you would do is visualize sitting down for that test, feeling really, really calm, feeling really prepared, and saying to yourself, you know what, I've got this. I've researched, I've studied, I've prepared, and I'm ready for this, and I'm ready to get the best possible mark that I can and pass the test with flying colours, yeah, and feeling all the feelings that come with that. And then, if you like, you could go even one step further and visualise and see what it's like when you actually get your test results, right? See the paper, see the mark, or see the email that you get to say, hey, you've actually, gotten a really, really good mark. So I hope that's been helpful, those 3 steps to getting rid of that head anxiety. Number 1 is identifying what it is that you're specifically anxious about. Number 2 is questioning and challenging yourself. What evidence do I have that this will actually happen and come true? And the 3rd is to create an empowering alternative to visualize your ideal outcome. So I hope that's been helpful. It's been a pleasure delivering it to you. And if you're someone who experiences anxiety and anxiety gets the better of you and would like to find out some more tools and resources for you to be able to manage that appropriately and to actually get rid of it as well, please contact me. I provide clinical hypnotherapy and psychotherapy, and I have some wonderful tools in my clinic that I've been using with many clients to achieve successful results in this area. So that's all for me today. Take care and bye for now.